picture cracking her lovely skull, unspooling her brains.
It's all connected. I want to zoom out and prove to you that Barbie is the prequel to Gone Girl. I'm not high.
I'm just ahead of the curve.
Okay, so hear me out. You know how in the movie, Barbie went to the real world? How a portal opened up and she journeyed in bright pastel Wes Anderson-y stage design style out of Barbie world. But the quote-unquote real world she went to was a somewhat kitschy simulation of our world. It was cool and interesting, and Greta Gerwig is a great director, no doubt. But I think if Barbie actually came to the real world and lived in it for a while, her life would look more like something out of David Fincher's Gone Girl. Cue the timeline of events. The Barbie movie happens exactly how it does. The plastic utopia becomes a haven of self-discovery, acceptance, and a healthy disillusionment of perfection. The film ends positively, with a dose of realism. The plastic cup half full, so to speak. But the real world, our world, is one that has phantoms of perfection in our day-to-day lives, and they scare all who look at them.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
How many of us try to live up to some ideal version of ourselves, and then feel like shit when we don't even come close? All right. Now I'm in the same situation as Barbie's existential crisis. The point is, at the end, Barbie realizes this all, does her self-love thing, finds her self-worth, and becomes human. The mythic Pinocchio, the story of the created becoming one with the creator, the AI gaining sentience, etc., etc. Now when she arrives in the real world, Barbie has left the Barbie Land simulation, exiting the performative femininity of her past. That is, literally being created to fulfill an idealized role. More on that in the sequel, Gone Girl. And then living the true version of a woman in the modern age.
You can't be mean. You have to lead, but you can't squash other people's ideas.
But you may be asking, how does Barbie turn into Amy Dunne? How does she end up spattered in blood and posing for the cameras on the perfectly manicured suburban lawn, with a frightful, broken husband holding her up? It's not Barbie that becomes Amy Dunne. It's her daughter. Or even her granddaughter. Or maybe even another escaped Barbie that loses all sense memory of Barbie Land and falls into the prison of reality that is our universe. Why? Why could a child or grandchild of Barbie have a similar experience of life, but approach it in a different, far more violent way? Because 1 or 2 generations removed, and the lessons of the past always become murkier. We as children and grandchildren sometimes more easily inherit the nature part of our ancestors, rather than the nurture. Like, I got some lessons from my grandparents, and I hold those close to my heart. But they were filtered through a gap of generations. It's not the sins of the father, not even of the mother, but the sins of the toy and its makers. That's what really influences Amy and leads her to rebel. Or if she is an escaped Barbie that's forgotten former life, it's the unconscious memories of that place that leads her to chafe at the situation dominated by men she finds herself in. All right, enough psychoanalyzing fictional beings, let's get on with it. So Barbie's journey of self-awareness is the prototype for Amy's reinvention.
Wow. Impressive gal.
At the youngest age, she was pushed to be the best. Amazing Amy. Making varsity, painting pictures, giving talks at the UN. Amazing Amy was the descendant of the second-wave feminism of the 20th century Barbies. But that pressure to conform grated, and most likely led to her penchant for rebellion. And then what happens when one lives in an ideal world, but is taken down to the grit and messiness of our unidealized cultures, relationships, and systems? What happens when the goddesses come down from Olympus to slum it with salt-of-the-earth Midwestern boys? The ultimate fish out of water. Barbie was awakened to that fact when she left Barbie World. But her naivete still lingered at the end of the movie.
I'm here to see my gynecologist.
And justifiably so. She was still learning what it was like to be a real person. Now imagine her as a parent, trying to tell her children about the near-perfect way things were run back in her homeland. The motherland, devoid of patriarchy. You could also argue, devoid of individuality and autonomy. The Barbies kind of just like follow their scripts, like a plastic North Korea. Now fully living in our world, she's a stranger in a strange land. And her kids take with them the lessons of the ultimate female empowerment, but in a world that's more indifferent, more messy, more out of any one person's control. And this theory isn't based on Ken, but it might be good to just mention him quickly. He had an obsessive love for Barbie, or at least a misplaced sense of his masculinity that required validation from her. Meanwhile, Amy ran into the anti-Ken.
I prefer men who are funny, not funny.
The man to save you from all of this. The man that shows deep interest, only to have that wane as his eyes wander to the next woman. And Amy, already raised on taking power from male-dominated structures, knew somewhere in her barbified genes exactly what to do.
Olivia's husband will go to prison for my murder.
To spare you from bloviating about Proust,
Quietly while he bloviates on his post-grad thesis about Proust.
I'm having a real Proustian flashback.
Remember Proust, Barbie? That did not sell very well.
it's Barbie that went in search of lost time, but Amy who went in search of lost vengeance.
Cool girl
Feminine
is
rage.
Cool girl is gay. Cool girl is fun. Cool girl never gets angry at her man. She only smiles in a chagrin-loving manner and then presents her mouth for fucking. She likes what he likes, so evidently, he's a vinyl hipster who loves fetish manga. If he likes girls gone wild, she's a mall babe who talks football and endures buffalo wings at Hooters. When I met
They
Nick
both
and
achieve their aims, in a way. Both involve reclaiming control in environments dominated by men. One just requires a lot more blood and manipulation. Barbie takes on her patriarchy with dance numbers, but Amy takes it on with a box cutter. It's somewhat sad to think about. That Gone Girl is the inevitable fate of misplaced feminine rage. But that's the way with power and systems of power. You may have one person who figures it out, takes charge, a good king or queen, so to speak, but their descendants can easily slide into petty vengeance. So what do you think? Do you have any movies that should be considered prequels or sequels to each other, but have absolutely nothing in common? Let me know in the comments below.